the end result is just flipping incredible. We got a deal. It was signed to East West Records.
Okay.
They gave us an advance.
Okay.
At the same time, Luck had been in the process of signing his deal for a little bit of Luck.
Oh.
And there was a conflict of interest there from their label. So Luck had signed the deal with us for Poison, but then the label basically pulled him out of it by highlighting the fact that there was an uncleared snare sample in the record. Yeah.
Essential exclusive.
So welcome to the Unspoken Word Podcast with myself, Shane. Now, this episode, I've been looking forward to this one for a long time. The gentleman we've got in the chair today, in my eyes, is a pioneer. He's done so much work across the scene over the last 30 years. And it's an honour to have a legend in the chair today. And also, just before I even go into that, it's a London thing. Percy for me. Mr. Scott Garcia.
Shane, thank you so much for having me here, man.
You're welcome. And I know we've been talking sort of on and off, what have you, and it's just an honour to have you in this chair today, man. You've done a lot for the scene and we need to document this today.
Thank you. I think likewise, I've been watching the podcasts and I've thought, this is the first sort of long form podcast that I've done, first sort of opportunity to talk about the history of what I've done. Okay. And what better place to do it than here?
Absolutely. And this is why.
So thank you for inviting me, man.
Absolutely. And this is why you're on the Unspoken Word Podcast, of course. So before we get into the questions, just how are you from day to day? How are you getting on? You all right?
Yeah, I'm busy.
Yeah.
I'm loving life. I always try to love life, live in the moment, enjoy the moments for what they are. Yeah. Now, it's been a long journey. I'm good, man. Life's good.
Okay, we'll get stuck into it.
Yeah.
Go. So obviously you know why you're here.
Yep.
Boom. Let's get into it. So tell us a little bit about yourself, your background.
Well, what do you want to know?
Okay, so. Do you have any siblings? Your parents? Your heritage?
Yes, I've got an older brother.
Okay,
he's a half brother, so he's got a different dad, but he's my brother. I grew up in South London. I grew up in Mitcham in South London originally. Very working class family. We grew up on a council estate. It's the general sort of story of, South London, not the most affluent part of South London. It was a pretty rough upbringing. It was challenging. And I think it's probably part of the reason why I'm still here, because I think when you grow in those environments, you learn the most important thing you learn is resilience. Yeah. And that, so it set me up really well for life. Mitcham was a crazy place to grow up. Yeah. I moved over to Wimbledon when I was around 7 years old. Okay. And we've been there ever since. Mum still lives there now. So that's kind of my home now, but I'm very much a South London kid.
Of course.
Just the general sort of upbringing of a kid who lives in social housing at that time of life,
Yeah, and you touched on some of the challenges, of course, in those times. What were some of the things you may have experienced?
I think the most prominent thing in my mind about sort of my earlier years when growing up was there was a lot of racial tension. Okay. In the area that I lived in, especially. So that was quite a big element of like my earlier years. I think sometimes being mixed race as well in that situation. I think, you know, there was only a few mixed race families in my estate.
Okay.
Which kind of shines a light on you. Plus the fact that my brother's, my brother's white. So you've got my brother white, you've got me, then you've got my dad who's black and my mum's white. And so, you know, the whole family setup was quite odd, I guess, at the time. So it was racially charged years, which sort of led to me being quite rebellious and quite sort of single-minded, because you kind of had to be at that time. Mitcham was pretty unforgiving, you know, when you're growing up there. When I moved to Wimbledon, it was actually a lot nicer, obviously. It was a nicer area. And because I'd sort of had this really sort of tough sort of first 6 years, when we finally got to Wimbledon, it was almost like, you know, like,
breathe.
Yeah. And it was just like, it was like, you know, we was at a certain level, myself and my brother. Yeah. But everyone around that area hadn't lived at that level, sort of thing. So we kind of came in and turned the area upside down, really, because we'd come from absolute chaos, really. So.
And did you go? So I take it most of your schooling years were in Wimbledon.
Yes. So started school in Mitcham.
Okay.
School was never really one of my sort of favourite places for various different reasons. But my schooling was sort of mainly in Wimbledon and around Wimbledon, which was problematic as well, because Wimbledon was a very middle-class area. I was coming from a very working-class background, and so therefore when I was going into these schools, I very much felt different to the other kids.
I thought,
you know, like you'd go back to, say, someone's house after school, for instance, and you realise that they're in like a 5-bedroom house, you know, and they've got all this stuff, and you're like, wow, like this is how you're living, yeah? Do you know what I mean? So there was a lot of that in my younger years. I had a lot of friends who were from, you know, decent backgrounds, and so there was always this kind of knowing that we weren't really living like that, you know? So I think that breeds that kind of, that desire to succeed and to have success and to do well, you know? So I think that it all kind of ties in. I don't look back at any of it and go, oh, I had a really hard upbringing. I think, geez, if I didn't have that upbringing, I would never have been able to get as far as I've gone.
Absolutely.
So that's sort of how I frame it, you know?
Yeah, absolutely, man. But I can relate to some of the things you've just said there as well, in terms of the racial side of things, growing up myself, or even just friends around me who were better off. Their parents were okay, you know, and they had the nice house, and you're like, wow, like this is, and it just shows actually if you work hard at something, it's there.
Yeah, everyone's journey's different.
Exactly.
Everyone's start point's different. Everyone's end point's different.
Absolutely.
You know, and it takes a while to realise that in life. And I think the challenge in life is not to be looking at what someone else has got and thinking, why haven't I got this? But if you do see something that someone else has got that you do want, there's no harm in aspiring to get it for yourself, but there's no benefit in feeling hard done by that you haven't got it.
Exactly.
You know?
Definitely. So you're in Wimbledon.
Yeah.
In your early years. How did music find you?
Well, music, I always have to say it's down to my dad. Like, Dad brought the vibes in the house. So going back to even before Wimbledon, Mitcham, when we lived in the tower block in Fitzbridge Estate, it was on the 9th floor. But these buildings are concrete, so you could make noise in them houses, you know. Like, my dad always had a very, you know, powerful stereo at all times. I can always remember it was like our feature piece. Whatever we had, we always had a decent stereo. And my dad was sort of, that time he was going backwards and forwards to Jamaica, so he used to bring back. When he'd go to Jamaica, he'd always come back with some vinyl. Okay. He had like a vinyl collection. He wasn't a DJ or anything like that, but he just collected music. And so my dad's taste would have been sort of anything from like Marvin Gaye through to Bob Marley, a lot of reggae, a lot of soul, you know. And so that was my dad's influence. So that music was always on in the house. There was always music. And I think you know, like around 84 was when I got my first piece of vinyl, which was, so it could have, I was trying to think about it last night, so it could have been a little bit earlier than this, but I'm pinpointing it back to the records that I had. And I think the first record that I remember clearly getting, so at Christmas, we both, me and my brother both got like a little record player, sort of all in one unit thing. And then obviously the following Christmases after that, we'd always get a couple of records. So the first ones that I remember, it was 84, and it was, it's such a mad mix. It was, I got the Band Aid record, which was Feed the World, yeah, which was obviously a massive thing at the time. And I got the Smiley Culture, I think it was Cockney Translator. So my dad was so proud of Smiley Culture because it was like an Englishman who was doing a Jamaican thing, and
that's right.
And so he really wanted us to understand that this was a great thing. So he made sure that we both got that record for Christmas. The 12-inch, you know, the long player. So my first records was Smiley Culture and Band Aid Feed the World. I think in amongst there as well, I had Adam and the Ants. I think I had, you know, like I had the usual eclectic taste of, I think, how old would I have been there? I would have been like 5 years old, right? So I still had that eclectic taste of a 5-year-old where I'd like all sorts of music. But my dad's influence was definitely there from early. And I think one of my early sort of experiences of kind of what we would call club music, essentially, was the electro albums.
But the street soul.
Yes.
It's funny you say that, because Munchie touched on something like
really?
that. Yeah, he touched on something about, it was a competition that he'd won, if my memory serves me. I'm sure it was something to do with that. And he mentioned about the Electro series, the Street Soul.
The Electro series was just like a huge compilation series at the time with electronic music.
Correct.
I had no idea that this was such a thing, but I just loved these albums. And I think my brother for Christmas got Electro 6 or Electro 5.
Doing different volumes.
Or Electro 4, yeah. So it was like Electro 1, 2, 3, up to 11, I believe, or 12 even. But Electro 5, I think my brother got that for Christmas one year. And I was super jealous because although I'd got my Band-Aid but he got Electro 5 and I wanted that, do you know what I mean? So that was my first sort of experience of electronic music as such. But I was your typical, and me and my brother, like, we were your typical kids. We'd sit there, we'd have the catalogue, for instance, and we'd be like, late at night, you know, you're meant to be asleep, and we'd be going through the catalogue, the music section, and I'll be going, right, we're going to get this keyboard, and we're going to buy this guitar, and we're going to do it, and we're going to make a band, right? And then we're going to write a song. Like, and I was literally like, you know, when I look back, I was doing these projects, you know what I mean? I was all about these projects. You know, presenting radio shows and, you know, recording. So I used to record a lot of stuff off the radio, and then I used to take those recordings and then overdub with my own, because we could plug the mic and then record. Right. So we was like talking over what was going on and sort of presenting, or then like just recording like what I would call now a link, you know, in between the songs. And this was not because I wanted to be a presenter or a DJ or anything. I just love music and I love playing. And I was, because my brother moved over to the Isle of Wight when I was around 5, 6, around that sort of time. So then from there, for the next sort of 10 years, I was kind of like an only child. Right. So only child, you entertain yourself, man. Do you know what I mean? And so a lot, I was very creative. I think I've always had a creative side to me. And music was always something that I gravitated to. I feel music, you know, like, and I even being young, I felt music then, you know, it was it's a spiritual thing for me.
Understood, man. Definitely. Which we are going to be documenting it throughout this podcast, because it takes you on a lovely journey into where you go. So you mentioned sort of mid-80s being that sort of pivotal part of your journey, if you like. As you get older now, we're coming in towards the late 80s, and there's electronic music is now dominating the charts. You got You probably would have been aware of this around this time. So your acid music, the dance, the rave culture's coming in. Mm-hmm. Were any of those sort of sounds at those periods sort of grabbed your attention further at this point?
Yeah, so fast forward to like when I'm like sort of 11, 12, right?
Okay.
Now I'm still an estate kid, right?
Okay.
But I'm just on a different estate.
Okay.
Now where I lived in Wimbledon, I mean back then, anyone from back then will know, when you're a kid, you hang around. You go to the park, or you'd have a local spot where everyone sort of communes. And for us, it was our local park, which is literally opposite from where I live. And Hayden's Park, for anyone who's watching and who might know it. So Hayden's Park was the spot, and we all used to hang around over there. And I used to, these days the estate was filled with, it was family. So there was a lot of, I go to my mum's estate now, there's not many kids around, but then it was just, it was literally like a playground for kids. And over the park, you had the older kids. And at those times, so I was pretty rebellious. I was, in and out of school by that time. I was having my own issues. I was a little bit of a latchkey kid, I was just out doing my thing.
Sure.
And I used to hang around with the older lot, and the older lot were into this rave music. They was going to, so we're talking like sort of 88, 89 now.
Okay.
The older lot, I would have been around sort of 12, 13. The older lot were going to like these Energy and Sunrise and these massive illegal raves that were taking place. They were going and, indulging in whatever substances and whatnot. And me being a very influenceable young kid, really, thought that it was amazing. I wanted to go to these raves. But they wouldn't take me. Obviously, there's no way you're getting a kid into the rave at that age. But I definitely had the enthusiasm for it. And then, so, at that time in Merton, there used to be a youth club called the Emu Club, which was, again, on Hayden's Road, just a couple of minutes around the corner from the park. And I think it was every Wednesday, I believe it was Wednesday nights or Thursdays. The reason I say that is because there used to be a music room there, and we used to go in and listen to Kiss, because Kiss had just gone legal at that time.
Right.
So you used to have, I think it was Colin Dowell, then Colin Favour, on a Thursday night. So this was really like, the time, it was almost like the changing between the classic early sort of house and rave stuff, and moving into more of the breakbeat and hardcore stuff. And that used to be on the radio on a Thursday night. So we used to go to the youth club, play pool and play snooker, table tennis, and have the tunes on and listen to the tunes. The older guys, they're going raving. So, by this time I'm now sort of congregating at different houses and stuff. And I'm watching the elders, and they're watching things like, there used to be a thing called the Evil Acid Baron Show, right? Which was like, if you looked at it now, it's ridiculous, right? But at the time, it was cutting edge, right? Video graphics, and so we'd all sort of, smoke a bit of weed, and I mean, I started smoking weed very young, estate life, yeah. So,
yeah, of course.
But the elders they'd be smoking weed, and they'd be watching this Evil Acid Baron Show, which is just all these, it's like music synced up with all these graphics. But like, if you imagine what we see now as graphics compared with back then, this is early. It's like
ahead of its time.
But I mean, I believe it's on YouTube. So if anyone wants to actually see, check it out, because it's like, it's wild.
Check it out.
So yeah, things like the Evil Acid Baron Show, very much into pirate radio at that time, and just collecting music via the radio. So I used to record Steve Jackson's show, The House That Jack Built. I used to be there for Colin Favour and Colin Dowell shows, and just taking the best parts of those shows and just putting them onto cassette tapes, and just having these cassette tapes that kind of play the tune, and then it'll be, and that is, and then it'll go to the next one, where you press pause.
Was that around the time you felt, I want to be a DJ? Was this later on?
No, I feel like this was my introduction to it. I don't think at that time I wanted to be a DJ.
Okay.
However, it was around that time that the group that I was sort of hanging with, we was into music, and then I must have just started buying records. Oh no. So what happened was a good friend of mine, Max, one of my best friends in the world, and he's a bit of a hustler back in the day, even when we were young. It was these times we were like 14, 15, around this sort of age. He was a hustler, and we used to go to the car boot sales, and we used to just try and buy stereo equipment. There'd always be an amp or a tape deck or something, you know. And we'd always be out getting bits every Sunday. And one Sunday he come back with this all-in-one DJ unit thing, right? Okay. So it had just 2 decks. They was literally on springs, and the fader, the crossfader was all built in. Everything's just all built into this one. There's no pitch control. Okay. And he had this unit, and we was mucking around on it, and then he kind of got bored of it. And I think at that time I might have had about 10 records, 10 or 11 sort of dance records. And so I proceeded to play those 10 or 11 records hours and hours on end in my bedroom, sat on the floor because I didn't have anything to put on, and just playing the decks. And you used to have to speed up the record with your finger to make them. So I had some records that were the same BPM. I didn't understand this at the time. So they would work together. And then I had other records where I'd have to speed it up or slow it down. And so that's where I learned how to mix music. Okay. And then at around the same sort of time, another very good friend who's very instrumental in my journey was a friend of mine called Lee Richardson, or he was known as Easy Lee when he was DJing. Okay. And so he had managed to get him, because he was a few years older than me, he managed to get himself some Sound Lab belt drive turntables.
Of course.
Around this time, I was having more issues at school.
Okay.
At this time, I got diagnosed with hyperactivity and ADHD. Okay. So I was having a lot of struggles at school. School just wasn't for me. I ended up getting excluded from school, and then that just left me a lot of time. When you're excluded from school at like 14 years old, your peers are all at school. Yeah. So everyone's at school. Now Lee had left school. He was 16. He had a Saturday job, and he lived around the corner, so I could get up in the morning, go and knock for him. His dad would have been out at work, so the house is free, and we could just play music. So we'd just be playing the decks, and Lee was collecting records. So that was sort of my introduction to jungle and that stuff. I started buying jungle records, like the early jungle stuff. So we're talking like 93, end of 92, 93, 94, around that time. I'm buying these jungle records, and we start this, at the same time, another friend of mine, Michael, who called himself STM Dread, he was a friend of Lee's who became a friend of mine, sort of thing, yeah? Okay. He'd had an accident where he fell on the train tracks. And basically he got, electrocuted, and he got burnt. He had serious burns all over him, and he got a massive payout from I don't know, public trial, whoever it was. I don't want to go into any legalities or anything. He got a massive payout anyway, so he got this massive payout, and he was allowed a certain amount of that money every year. It was like a trust. He wasn't allowed to have the whole amount. He went and bought Technics. So he had Technics. So this was in Collier's Wood. Lee was in Collier's Wood, and I was in sort of South Wimbledon, really. So, but they were very close, very close, yeah. Walkables, yeah. So the first time I touched Technics decks was at Michael's house, yeah. Right. And we used to go around there for a mix, and then we decided, so we'd be around Michael's or we'd be around Lee's playing music, or around Michael's, around Lee's. And I was buying records. We used to go to Troublesome Records in Kingston, and there was another one in Kingston as well, Slamming Vinyl. Yeah. And we used to go there. That's where we used to get all our jungle records and stuff, right? And then, basically Lee. So around this time, so we formed this little crew. Yeah, it was called the SW19 crew, and we decided that we was going to go out and do these bookings. So we're going to do these bookings. And we were playing together. We was doing a bit of radio, so we started doing Trance FM. Lee got on there first. We will
touch on that in a moment.
We'll come back to that. Yeah. So we was doing radio, and so we're starting this little movement thing, yeah? Yeah. And to cut a long story short, we was trying to get bookings at parties and stuff like that. Nothing ever really come along. And I don't know if the guys will remember this, but I bloody remember it, right? My mum had like taken me on holiday to Ibiza for the first time as well around that time. And basically, while I was away, it was a 2-week holiday, which was bloody unheard of for us at that time. And while I was away, the guys had got a booking. And they decided to do it themselves. So I kind of got shifted out of the SW19 crew just in absence. And I remember I was pretty peed off with that situation. Yeah. So I just decided I was going to go on my own and do my own thing. At the same time, another guy from my estate, Chris Calcott, he was awaiting a court trial, which he knew that he was going away for a while, right? So he gave me his record collection. And it was all these like, from 87 through to like 90, yeah, like rave records.
Sure.
And not all of them were in the best condition. There was stuff like Lil Louis, French Kiss.
Yep.
And there was like real classic records. But this guy had been skinning up on the record sleeves, burning like bits of, so there was burns and all sorts. So some of the records were damaged, but a lot of them were all right and playable. And that was my first proper record collection of house music.
Okay.
So then I started playing this house music. Now, around that same time, see, everything just feeds into the next thing. Around that same time, I meet up with a guy called Phil Harris, who is who's basically what I would say is responsible for my becoming a professional DJ, I would say. Okay. And so we meet up with Phil, and so around this time, I'm around 14, 15. Phil's an aspiring entrepreneur he's your typical like early 90s rave promoter type. He just hadn't promoted a rave yet, yeah? Okay. He had the leather jacket, he had the ponytail, he had the Filofax. He was very organised. He was just, and I looked up to him immensely because he was handling business. That's all he knew how to do stuff. So we all got together because, like I say, I was in this crowd of people that were going raving. We all was going raving. A lot of parties were happening at that time, in houses. If there was a flat that was empty on the estate, we'd get into the flat and we'd throw a party there. We was very much just doing, we was living that kind of life. There was a lot of illegal raves going on. There was a guy called Jit who used to run some raves in Collier's Wood, and they were literally in the Lipton's. It's like a shopping, like a grocery store,
right? And
it was empty. It was next door to Collier's Wood tube station, and they got in there and they spray painted all the walls with and it had all this kind of like modern art stuff painted on the walls, all these backdrops with like luminous paint on and ultraviolet lights and stuff, and they really converted it into a rave. And that was happening quite regularly. Maybe not every month, but every couple of months there was one of these raves. So I started going to these kind of warehouse parties and stuff like that. Okay. Phil decides he wants to do a rave, and he manages to get a place called Nettleford Gym in Norwood, southeast London.
Oh, okay.
So it was a gym in the in the daytime, but they started doing events there. So they clear it all out, and you had the main room downstairs, and then you had upstairs was your chill out room, and so Phil was doing these events, and I was playing in room 2. He put me in room 2 playing house and stuff like the chill out room. And the main room was sort of all of your jungle, and by then jungle was getting really dark and very full on.
Stay on that. We're going to come back to that.
Yeah.
We're going to come back to that because there's a couple of questions that kind of lead back to that.
Fill in the gaps.
All right. Going to move forward a bit with a question to come back to that. Why would you say the early 90s, the golden period? So you touched on 93. So I'm going to start with 92 to about 94. Let's start there for a moment. Why was that period, just very brief in your opinion, why was that period so important?
Important for garage.
As a whole, the scene.
Just important. I think it was just like the most, as I can remember it, it's probably one of the most, the times when clubbing in general and raving was the most vibrant. You had illegal raves going on that were thousands of people. Also, you had this new, because the they was putting in this criminal justice bill to to get rid of the raves, you had all these kind of rave type crowds going into nightclubs now as well. So whereas before, you know, your nightclub would have been collar, you know, shoes and a collar, whereas now it's getting a little bit more laid back. You're able to go to more clubs and hear the music that you like. You know, you would have to sort of put up with a load of commercial trash in a club before that time. And then all of a sudden, you know, it's almost like the club owners and realise that it's not what people want to hear anymore. Yeah. So I think it was an important time just culturally because the music was so powerful at that time. Jungle, for me, was the first real movement. We had the rave movement, which was obviously huge, but I think jungle was like that. It was the first kind of lifestyle movement where people were wearing certain clothes and
so talk us through some of the clothes you
Well, I think at them times it was all about chippy and naff and
naff
you know, and you know, pin roll trousers and click suits and all of that stuff. And so I was very much but I'll be the first to admit and first to say I was never much of like a fashion guru.
Okay.
I was never really like overly motivated by the fashion, other than the fact that I didn't want to look different to everyone else by not having what everyone else was wearing. So that whole kind of Moschino off-key thing, I used to do it. I had a ton of Moschino. I was probably the worst. If I was like a personal shopper, I'd be your worst personal shopper you could ever have. I think some of the stuff that I bought was horrendously bad, but I think just because it was an off-key mosh or whatever, you'd wear it. So the fashion was definitely an element.
Yeah.
But for me, that wasn't my motivation. I weren't trying to just look Chris for the girls. If you look at my video shoot for It's a London Thing, I'm literally wearing like, I think my outfit came from Next or something. I bought a top and a pair of trousers. And I didn't even cut my hair for the video shoot. I was not image conscious at all at that point. I was just into music.
Yeah.
I just like music.
Yeah.
I weren't trying to be an image or personality or anything like that.
Yeah.
I just like music, you know what I mean? And that was that. And where I'd come from, everyone was just themselves. And I was just myself. And that's how I liked it, you know?
Yeah.
Obviously, as time went on and you're in this, and it's a bit glitzy, you know, you're going to these places, you might want to put a shirt on and you might want to put some shoes on. And then as you start earning a bit of money, you might have a bit more money to spend on stuff. And I bought stuff that I couldn't believe I bought sometimes, you know what I mean? And I'd be gassed.
Yeah.
But ultimately, where is it now?
Exactly that.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely that. With that period, of course, so the jungle, that was an important period of your journey. Talk us through Trance FM and how that come about and Pirate Radio as a whole.
Yeah, it's a mad one, really. So the whole pirate thing for me, obviously I've, thinking about it last night, and I've actually just been doing radio ever since day one. Do you know what I mean? Like when I look back, there's not really many gaps in my radio career. Trance FM. So I think that Easy Lee, who I was talking about earlier, he got the link. He was a good DJ, man. Like I really, really had so much potential to be a great DJ. And even at that time, his shows, people would lock in for his show, you know, and he was really good. I was kind of, I was toying with MCing at the time.
Oh, really?
Yes. So like, not a lot of people know it, but I did actually have a very short and very non-productive MC career. And so, so in those early years, so let's say 93, 94.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm rolling with Lee anyway, and I'm always around there. I know his records inside out because I was sitting there listening to him to play the same way he sits and listens to me play. So I know what he's playing and stuff. And I think I just started hosting his radio shows for him. And then I definitely sort of borrowed some lyrics that I'd heard on different recordings and stuff and kind of put them together. I made them my own. So sorry to anyone, but it doesn't matter now because we didn't pursue it. But yeah, I think at the time you just want to be involved and then and also I was very much like because of where I was, I was in and out of trouble at school. By this time I'm also in and out of care and children's homes and stuff like that. So I'm, like I say, I'm very much like, if someone is telling me I'm good at something, then
you're gonna roll with it.
I'm going with it, bro, because all I'm hearing is I'm bad, you're bad. You're gonna go, you're gonna amount to nothing, So when I was getting this praise from the music thing, it's why I think I always gravitated back to it. So yeah, you know, I must have picked up the mic at a party or something and started emceeing, and everyone's, oh, Scott, man, you should do this. And I got away like, oh yeah, no, maybe I should do this, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was MC Youngblood. I also MC for my other mate, DJ Rhythm, Peter, he's a big part of my sort of journey as well. He's a wicked DJ, and he taught me how to mix breaks. If anyone knows what a break is, he basically taught me how to mix at the right time.
Okay.
That was the most game-changing bit of information that anyone ever gave to me. That made me, from the early days, sound better than other people.
Sure.
And he, again, was a brilliant DJ. So I was raised around these guys who didn't even go on to become full-time DJs, but they were so talented. Like, they were just so talented.
In what they were doing.
Yeah, and I looked up to that, you know? So, like, I was very inspired by seeing someone be good at something and thinking, I want to be good at that. You know, so that's always been that's how my mentality is. Like, oh, I'd like to do that. Let me do it. Like, I want to go. You know what I mean? Absolutely. So, and that's kind of how I came from going from doing this MCing thing and realising that I really just wanted to DJ. So I think I asked the guy who run Trance, his name was Hot Knife.
What day, do you remember roughly what day or time you did your shows?
Yeah, I used to do Sunday morning 4 till 6 when I got my first DJ show.
When we say 4 till 6 in the afternoon? No, oh, graveyard.
In the morning, mate,
wow.
Graveyard.
Yeah. And what was the phone line like them times?
Bruv, the phone line would ring.
Wow.
Like, the thing is, you got to remember, people are raving. This is a raving generation. The clubs finished at 6, 7 o'clock them times, you know? Like, so you might
people still might be going to another party.
They're coming out, they're coming in, like, the phone will start ringing.
Yeah.
You would always get, you know, you'd always feel like you're doing something. You never, all right, sometimes it might be a bit quieter than others, but you'd always get that little buzz, that phone ring, that little text message, or I don't even think, them times, I don't know, I'm sure if you had text messages. I think it was just phone calls.
I think it was just phone calls.
I think it's just phone calls.
My dad had the brick. He had the big one.
Yeah, well, that's what you'd have. You have a Motorola brick phone there, and that would just be ringing off. But the thing with Trance, again, it was in my local area. It was right by St George's Hospital in Tooting. So, and it was in a disused nursing home, right? So it was, you had to go round the back of the nursing home, climb over this fence, the bottom glass panel on the door was put through, you climb through there, you're going through this creepy little like nursing home, feels like something out of a horror movie, and then there's one little room at the end of a corridor and you go in there and it's just full of junk and rubbish and a set of decks, you know? And that's where you're broadcasting from, and that was the early 90s, man. That was the vibe, that was the buzz, you know? And being on the radio, it took you into another thing in the area. Everyone sort of knows you from the radio. So even though I'm 14, 15 years old, I'm kind of making a little name for myself in this local area, you know? And because the parties we're doing, they're busy. Like, looking back, not thinking about, I put parties on for a living now. So I kind of understand what it takes to get a busy party. And back then, parties were just busy because that was the place to be. If you live around our way and you knew that this party's going on, everyone's going to be there. So parties were popping. We was on the radio. Phil was, like I say, Phil, you know, the promoter guy was looking at doing these events. So what happens is it's just a beautiful thing that happened. Phil does his event, it's called The Real Thing. So he taught me about branding. Like, this event was called The Real Thing, and it was the Coca-Cola slogan, The Real Thing.
Oh, I've seen those flyers. So it was in the Coca-Cola.
Okay. So that was his brand. And he then went to Kiss FM. Kiss FM at the time had a promotions department, and you could, as a promoter, go to Kiss, do your promotion with Kiss. Okay. They will take 75% of the money, but you will get radio advertising, which at the time, the radio advertising was invaluable. Kiss was one of the most listened to stations. So Phil went from doing these little underground parties in this illegal party, really unlicensed in a gym, And then the next thing I was playing at like Paradise Club, and I played at the Rocket in Holloway for him. I played under the Arches in Vauxhall, and he starts doing these massive events.
Which was my next question. So we can continue that.
Let's go through, yeah.
So just briefly before we move on, so I want to go back to the Room 2s.
Okay.
Those important days, so with Rocket, so we're talking 93, 4?
Yeah, I would say that would be like 93, 94, definitely. I think the first thing that I'd done for Phil was like either the tail end of 92 or early 93. He'd done 2 of those parties. They were both created, in my mind, they were amazing.
Okay. What was the atmosphere like?
Just crazy, because these were, you know, without being too brash about it, these were drug-fueled, illegal, underground parties, you know? People were going there to let off. It weren't no stand-around thing them times, you know? Everyone was looking to let off, and they were. And so the parties were insane. The parties were wild. The after parties were wilder. It was just crazy. It was crazy times. Phil tapped into a community of people who wanted to party, and he just created these parties that everyone loved. So, and that became my pattern. I was his resident DJ. He was putting me on all of the stuff. We used to talk for hours about music. Different DJ. We used to start, like, there was DJs then like Terry Francis, for instance. There was another DJ called Gideon, who was he was at one of the residents at Phil's parties as well, but playing like kind of deep house stuff. And we used to study their tapes, like the recordings from the events we were doing, and just listen to how perfectly they'd mix. And I'd used to play these tapes over and over again. Terry Francis, Nathan, and Gideon. Those three.
When you say Nathan,
his name is DJ Nathan. Yeah.
Okay.
But these 3 DJs
were like,
and they're so far detached from what I do now. But they were a huge. One more huge influence as well. Around that age, 14, 15, my next door neighbour. I got a new next door neighbour. So this guy just pulls up, moves in next door. He's got a TVR car, like kit car.
Yeah.
Dreads and whatnot, mixed race family, all that. So, like, obviously, you know, you're curious, who the hell is this guy? Over time, I get to know that he's DJ Loftgroover, who is like a legendary. He's a pioneer. He's, you know, and so, well, I become good friends with him. You know, I still consider him as a great friend now. And I learned so much from him. Remember, he's at this time, he is driving up to Scotland for gigs, and he's doing all these things that so I'm aspiring to this, and I'm also getting a chance to sit down, reason with him in his house. He's telling me about this and that and how not to do this and don't let someone do that and he used to give me great advice, and I learned from the benefit of his knowledge, you know, and his experience. So those 3 DJs between them inspired me so much.
That's good.
So yeah, that sort of time, it was a special time, man. That's when I started really coming into my own. The radio thing was popping.
And what, just very brief before I go on to Room 2s, what sort of key records, very brief, don't have to go too much, what at that point, what sort of records were you hearing at places like the Rocket and those places at the time?
So then these times this is before Garage.
Okay.
But anyone who was sort of around at that time will know that the precursor to Garage was like this kind of UK house music that was going around. There was labels like Cleveland City Records. Cleveland City stands out in my mind as a real blueprint for that type of music. But there was a lot of like almost progressive house, but it was starting to become garage when I look back. It was like, I can see why I gravitated towards that music. I was going to places like Club UK in Wandsworth, and so I was hearing this music there.
Okay.
And then, you just, like I say, I was playing the Room 2s at Phil's thing, so I was playing old school mainly there, the old school records that Chris had given me mainly. But I'd started buying records, so I started buying like deep house.
Did you feel free in the Room 2s? Did you feel like was it able to experiment? Was it just sort of like, I'm just playing music? How was it for you?
I don't think many people cared about Room 2 back then. I'll be honest with you. Room 2 was the chill out room.
Yeah.
It was literally called that.
Yeah.
So no one was going in there with the intention of losing their mind.
Okay. But you as a DJ, playing? Did you feel free at that point? I'm just playing music.
No, I just felt nervous. Bro.
Just felt nervous.
Them first gigs there,
yeah.
I just the overwhelming feeling was nerves and like shit. I'm actually doing. You got to remember, I'm not even old enough to be in this place.
True.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not even old enough to be in there.
But you're in there.
And it's all big men, raving age. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, my first few gigs were just like I remember just being full of fear. I remember like my first big gig in Vauxhall that I'd done for Phil, the night before, sitting down and writing out in a book what tune I'm going to play and what I'm going to mix it with. What was I thinking? That obviously never took the book to the club, but I thought I'd memorise it and then go there and be able to do it.
But you look back at that though, that was still part of your journey though.
Yeah.
You did those little things. It was for you to know, I'm going to play this, I want to do that. It's a format and you just run with it. Did you experiment with some of the formats? Even though you'd written down a certain thing, did you say?
Well, again, like Terry Francis was a really technical DJ, and he'd done some really classy little things, little subtle spin backs and little subtle manipulation of the vinyl. And that I loved that. I just thought that was just so classy. And so I'd always try and be a little bit experimental with what I was doing. But my main thing was about having these mixes that were so ridiculously tight.
Yeah.
Because when you're mixing vinyl in a club, if you get the mix ridiculously tight,
of course,
the beats start cancelling each other out.
Yes.
Right? Now, when I hear that, that's like my favourite sound in the world. Yeah. So that's what I'm always trying to achieve. And that was what I was about, was just that feeling there, that so locked tight that it's the two drums can't hit. One's got to go. Do you know what I mean? And that was my whole thing, man. It still is.
Of course, it's the art of mixing, and everyone has their own. And you have yours.
Yes.
So that's I hear that. I'm going to move on to Scandal FM.
Okay.
Very brief before we get into we get into the.
It's got a part to play, definitely.
Talk us through that.
Funny times.
Yeah.
A former friend of mine, Stevie A. I don't speak to him anymore, but I wish him well.
Sure.
He again was young. He's a couple of years older than me, still very young. And he set up his own pirate station in Kingston. He was up the block. He was doing the aerials. He was doing everything himself. He had, and I was doing trance, and I was doing a little bit on Don FM by then as well.
Oh,
I guested on Don, and I guested, I was doing a little bit here and there.
Okay.
And then he set up this station. He said, "Look, would you come up and play a set?" I went up and done a set, and then I got a weekly show on there. So I used to go Kingston every week. But I think the funniest part of that story, and the bit that I love still to this day, is that, like, obviously these times we didn't have much money. Like, didn't have much money at all. And paying subs for radio even, it was only a $5, but
$5 back then was a lot of money.
Where am I getting a $5 from? You know what I'm saying? So, but I want to do the radio. Yeah. So I go to do the first one. I take my $5 with me, go to do the radio, and Stevie's like, he's been there all weekend, right? I'm playing Sunday, because Sunday's when they play the house music and stuff, right?
Right, okay.
So I'm playing like Sunday, maybe midday-ish, I used to take my boy Reese in the baby, right? Because these times there, DTI were really on the radio stations as well. It was fire. So my cover used to take the baby with me,
Mad.
Like my missus at the time used to come with me, take the baby, and the baby bag would be full of my records.
That's good to know.
So,
because it's not obvious that you're going in. Yeah,
exactly. So that's because the rule of the studio was don't bring your record bag.
Yeah,
like we can't have 20 people coming up here with record bags.
Got to be discreet.
Yeah, so the baby bag, that was the cover. So Stevie would always be sort of hanging by the time I get there on a Sunday, and I'd get there and I'd always roll a joint before I'd start playing my thing, and I'd smoke a joint, and first time I'd give him this half a joint, and he smoked it and that, and then I started playing my set, and I looked over to him halfway through my set, mate, he was conked out in the chair, So I thought, all right. So when I finished my set, just packed up my stuff, just left, kept my $5 in my pocket, spoke to him in the week, mate, you're going to have to give me that $5 next week. Yeah, no problem, mate. Next week we come,
Same thing
again, mate. Just roll a big joint. Yeah. So I had that going for weeks with him, weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. Roll a joint, leave him asleep, comatose in the corner. Yeah, every weekend, every Sunday. Yeah, that was it. And I never paid my subs. Just I was always avoiding my subs. I was the worst for it.
That invoice bill must be big.
Yeah, man. Do you know what I mean? I hope there's no interest on it.
No, you don't like that. Oh God, that's a good one. That's a good story. So now I'm going to lead into, so your Scandal FM. Why does, and I know we had a conversation off camera about this, but why is London Underground such a key part of your journey in this?
London Underground especially, but pirate radio on a whole. When I did, so we are fast forwarding a bit now because we're now talking about a time past when I've had my record shop. We're talking about a time when I have a collection of records. I'm a DJ. I'm actively a garage DJ. And I'm in this scene. I'm playing at these parties. I'm going to Channel Club. I'm going to different events, garage events now. And London Underground sort of comes along. Because if you lived in my area, you listen to trance or you listen to Don or you listen to Flex, really. Well, London Underground come along because I had this massive interest in this, what I called the under vibe. So I took the Tough Jam, used to call it under vibe, yeah?
Yes, that's right.
And I took that as, that was what I called the scene at that time. When my first introduction to it, when I was really into the Tough Jam sound and that, I used to be on the under vibe. That's if you ask me what sort of garage I'll be under vibe.
Yeah.
I want under vibe, yeah? So that was where you could get it. That station there, props to them because that was, for me at that time, every time I listened I used to listen on a Sunday mainly to London Underground because there used to be like a run of DJs on a Sunday afternoon and it'd be like, I think it was like Ramsey and Fenn, then maybe Danny Foster, then maybe someone, it was just like all these DJs, they all had dubs. They all had stuff that you never had. So it used to just be like you'd lock in to hear what you need to get next week when you're going record shopping. And so I would spend literally half hour, 3/4 of an hour with this bloody aerial that I had coming out the back of my little stereo setup, trying to find the point on my wall
just to
where it locks in and I can hear it without any interference. And yeah, that was half the battle. And then once you won that battle, then you're sitting down and I'm recording. But the funny thing is that my tape deck played, I think it played slow. So when you recorded, it
sped up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically you couldn't play it on anything else other than my thing. but I used to record a load of stuff and play back. And I used to just be obsessed with music. I never had a TV in my room. I only had the radio. And that was what I lived by. So music was very much 24/7. And London Underground was definitely a pivotal pirate station. Yeah, definitely for me.
Couple of questions before we get really stuck in.
Yes.
I want to get really in.
Yeah.
Producers like Roger Sanchez, MK, Victor Simonelli, Masters at Work, David Morales, DJ Disciple, Smack Production were influence of a lot of the scene at the time. Those sort of key producers.
I think every person you just listed there is sampled in one of my early batch of records. Literally every person. Roger Sanchez is sampled in the London thing. Disciple was sampled in the Dub Monsters stuff. We heavily sampled his drums and stuff.
Sure.
Who else did you say?
Victor Simonelli.
I've definitely used his vocals off of a fruit thing that he had out on Fruit Tree Records. All of those guys. So that's why they were so important, was because they was bringing a sound that we could take and make our own. The whole narrative, the whole thing, the story you'll always hear is that everyone played the B-sides of the American dubs and they sped them up and we played them because there was less vocals on there. But for me, it was more the fact that those vocal versions were literally so gospel and so like luscious that they weren't really club music as such. Whereas the stripped back dub on the B-side would work in a club. The speeding up element of it, I think that if you give someone a record deck that goes to +8, you're not just going to play everything on 0, are you? You're going to want to know what it sounds like at +8. Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I think it was only inevitable that songs are going to get played at the wrong speed if you give people the option of playing a different speed. The beauty of those records is they sound better faster. In my opinion.
Truth be told, yeah.
Yeah, in my opinion, they definitely did. And it was the speed of it that gave it that extra little bite, because this is meant to be a ploddy house record. All of a sudden, it's kind of aggressive because the drums are syncopated. So they're clacking around the bass. The bass everything's happening a bit faster. Yeah. And I think that combination is like it's unbeatable. Yeah. So then those dubs, I guess, that are responsible for us going away and trying to make our own version. Now, like anything, this is the equivalent to flipping Audi, making their own version of a wagon wheel, right? Yeah. It's going to look the same. Yeah. It's going to come in the pretty much identical packaging, but it's not the same flavour. Yeah. And that's what garage is. Compared with the US style. At that time. Yeah. We was probably trying to have these big, glossy, American sounding productions, but I don't think it was possible from where we were on a technology, the studio equipment that was available to us, maybe the house scene. Remember, the house scene's come out of the disco scene in America. So it's probably got investment. There's probably big studios and
that they're using.
Yeah, but we're not. We're at ground zero, so we're literally, we're coming out of little studios, little mixing desks, little bit of equipment. 3 bits in the rack. That's it.
And if you're lucky.
And so, therefore, our version of their stuff sounds different, and I think then we realised, hang on, we prefer our way. Do you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
There weren't many people who went down that road of doing those full vocal productions. It was only Tough Jam and a couple others who really entertained that. Once the dub side of things took over, that was really the way forward for most producers, I felt anyway, or most of the producers that I was influenced by or playing their music.
So we covered some of some inspiration, which will come into the productions in a moment. We move into 95.6, which is for me, a very pivotal part of the UK garage scene, the very birth of it all. So you're going to have producers like your Grant Nelsons. Grant Nelson's already started his movement with the 24 Hours Experience, But then producers like Smoking Beats, Nathan and Gavin will touch on in a moment, Baffled. Tough Jam, Banana Republic, Face and
Face,
Brian.
Obviously. In my life, mate, Face, same as Nathan.
Omar and Tim Deluxe production, Booker T, Einstein and Chewy, to name a few. These sounds were now... So you've gone from playing, 60 to 70% of these records with the other producers I may have mentioned before. You're now coming to 95.6 now, and if you did, you would have probably had one of those producers I've now mentioned in your collection at this point playing. Why were these producers so important now at this point, coming into 96?
Well, look, I think first and foremost, we have to give Grant Nelson his flowers.
Sure, absolutely,
I first come across Grant's music in 94 when we opened the record shop. Obviously, then I was getting... our struggle with the record shop, which was in Wimbledon, our struggle was that those imports, the import vinyl was so expensive. And we was running on a real tight budget, man. It was a makeshift situation. And so we couldn't really afford to, when the distributors came around, we couldn't afford to load up on American releases because we just didn't have the funding. So we did have to look for the UK releases because we could afford them. We could get more stock in the shop. So this is around that time I was sort of saying that you had the Cleveland City Records and you had your Positivas and these sort of labels. And then you had Nice and Ripe coming through. and those type of labels. There was a label that was run by Amato, was the pressing plant, but they had a label, and they had this kind of, I can't remember the name of the bloody label, it's going to annoy me.
Sorry.
But they had these kind of UK, and it was the start of UK garage. There's no doubt about that. And no Strong House Records. Right. So
yes.
they had the Danny J. Lewis.
I was just going to say,
Danny J. Lewis, but they had a few other releases on there before then as well. They were all of that sort of ilk, and so those sort of labels were coming through. The UK sound was coming through. People like Grant Nelson obviously took inspiration from the American tracks,
of course,
but made them our own. And I think that's when, if you didn't know that, I think this is where it happened, right?
Okay.
There was a knowledgeable people who knew that they knew the American records, so that if you didn't know the original Strictly Rhythm and you heard Grant Nelson's,
you wouldn't know the difference.
You'd be like, this tune's amazing. Like, what is this?
Yeah.
Not knowing that it's literally a copy of a track that actually exists, but it's just got a different vocal on it. So I think my first thing was like, at first, not knowing some of these other records, because I'm not getting the imports. I'm just getting the UK ones.
Absolutely.
And I'm like, these producers are mad, this. But obviously you realise after time, you got that from there and you got that from there. But props to Grant, because he saw what was going on and he adapted it to what we were doing, and that made it accessible. And then, the four track EPs, these things here, they have so much importance. Like for a DJ who doesn't have much money, who's trying to buy a record, you got a record with 2 tracks on and a record with 4 tracks on. I'm buying the one with 4 tracks on.
So, and I know we didn't touch on your shop, Rough Tracks.
Rough Tracks, yeah.
Very brief.
Briefly, yeah.
Very briefly. How did that all come together? Before I come back to
Phil, who we had the records, who was doing the events, the raves. I had a friend called I've got a friend called Tarek. He's a good friend of mine, friend of the family. Our mums are really close still now.
Okay.
He is from quite a wealthy background. His dad was quite well off. And his dad was very worried that he was not going to amount to much, I think. He wanted to give him a little kickstart in life. A shop became available. Well, there was a record shop on Wimbledon Broadway, which was just literally like, it weren't abandoned, but no one used to go in there really. He had this mishmash of old music and no one really cared about it. And so we approached the landlord, Phil did, because like I say, he was very business savvy. Yeah. So he approached the landlord, made the landlord an offer for us to take over the shop. It got accepted. We then moved in a jungle shop into the back of the thing.
Okay.
And yeah, that was Rough Tracks, and we was there for 2 years.
Okay.
It was very short, but really important. And it ended with the shop getting raided by like the drug squad, because there were so many people congregating at the shop. There was like the black element, like the guys in the back, they was all black, and this is Wimbledon High Street, and we was opposite the job centre. So people were going job centre, signing on, then coming, or went, and the job centre opposite us, and the post office next door. So these times you used to get a gyro if you was on benefits. So they'd be going, either signing on and coming into the shop, or they'd be cashing a gyro next door.
And then coming in
and spending money.
Right.
We used to have crazy parties in the shop. It used to be a melting pot. We used to blaze a bit of weed out the back, but there was no drug dealing or anything like that going on. But
there's the
just
stigma,
because of the stigma and that,
yeah.
And it was in the local newspaper, and it basically shut us down because it was a Friday afternoon, mad peak busy time. They come through, then they had all the press there and everything like that. They just, and then after that, people were a bit more reluctant to come to the shop.
Yeah, because of that.
A few customers ended up in the cells for the day, you know what I mean? So that was, the shop was a great learning. The best thing about the shop was Phil showed me how to do bookkeeping.
Oh, good.
That's where I learned how to run a business, essentially. Yeah. I used to be in that shop at 8:30, 9 o'clock, washing the windows, getting the place ready, tidy. I was so proud of that shop.
Yeah.
like anything I do, when I do something, I'm full in, you know, I'm fully in. And I remember being really upset when we lost the shot. It was the first business I lost. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. It's not the last, but it was the first.
It was the first.
It sets
and
you
it
up.
taught you something.
Taught me something, yeah. At that times I was 16, so I couldn't even be on the bank books.
Yeah.
I couldn't be on the bank books. So I didn't have much say in the business or how it grew or how it ended. But it was a good lesson. And there's no hard feelings from it whatsoever, only proud moments.
Yeah, from that. Okay. We're going to move forward because we're going to get into it now. Okay. Nathan and Gavin. Very brief. How did that all come together?
The record shop.
Oh.
Yeah, so the record shop become, like, if you think, I'm in this record shop 5-6 days a week. I'm meeting every promoter who's coming in with their flyers, every DJ in the area who's coming to check records. G was one of the people who knew the guys out the back. He came in to check them. He come through, we got chatting. He played me a DAT. No, I'll tell a lie. He played me a tape.
Okay, sure.
He played me a tape because we were in the shop. I just checked myself there.
That's okay.
Fact check.
Happens sometimes.
He played me a tape of Going On, what we know as Going On now. But this was the first
drop version.
The first version,
yeah.
And I was like, I want that. I want to cut a dub plate. These times, I'm just getting to learn about dub plates as well. So I'm eager to cut a dub plate anyway. Anyone who's got something that I can cut, I'm going to cut. You know what I mean? I want to cut a plate, I'd play that. Now, I didn't realise, but that sort of feedback that G got from that was a catalyst for them to go and finish the tune.
Oh.
Because they're like, oh, yeah, no, so whatever. So that's kind of how I got chatting with G. How I got in, like Nathan and G, I got so much love for. I will always say that without G Smooth and Nathan Lockett, there is no Scott Garcia. There's no story. The story ends in 94. Do you know what I mean? With them guys, when I met G, so I had the shop and I'm on this business flex now. So now I'm thinking, so I'm saying to Phil, we need a record label. Yeah, right. We need a record label so we can put our own music. We can sell it through the shop. We've got distributors. We can, we're going to set up a record label. Cool. Right, we're going to go I've met this producer called G, yeah? His mate's got a studio in Wandsworth. They got a studio. We'll pay them to make some music for us, set up our label.
Sure.
Wicked. It all sounds good. So I go up to Nate, like I say to G, look, we want to do this thing. We want to set up a label. And G, he's like, yeah, cool. Like I'll put you in touch with Nathan and come up and see him. So I go up there to have a chat with Nathan, a business meeting, you know what I mean? I'm in business mode. I sit down with him. And Nathan, man, I love him so much, bruv. He shot me down, bruv, like in this meeting, because I was like, look, I want you guys to make a tune for us. Yeah, we're gonna put it out, Rough Tracks Records, da-da-da. And Nathan's just like, well, how much money you got? You know, like what are you gonna pay us for this sort of thing?
Yeah.
And he just gave me the impression that like the money I was thinking or how I was thinking was not the right way I was going to work, because he knows the industry at this point. I don't.
Okay.
So he says to me, look, why don't you just come and book a studio session and just make your own tune? So I was like, right, okay. So I went away.
Thought about that.
And it coincided with the time my granddad was leaving the UK to go back to Jamaica.
Right, okay.
My granddad left the UK. He gave me 200 shares in Abbey National.
Oh.
Was it Abbey National?
It would have been Abbey National.
Yeah, it was Abbey National.
Yeah.
Yeah, so 200 shares in Abbey National. And by the time it come around, I obviously sold them pretty much soon after I got them because I needed money like bad.
Yeah.
So I sold them. And I think I got about, it was about 800 quid. Which don't sound a lot now, but
back then it was a lot of money.
It was a lot of money. And so I took that money and I went into the studio. I booked the studio and I went in with Nath. And I took like a load of samples. I just done what he told me to do. Bring some samples, let me know what you want to do and we'll make a tune. Okay. I went down there and we made these tunes and made Into the Darkness and Feelings. Oof. Feelings almost sounds like a Speed Garage record before Speed Garage was even a
record. Yeah.
Like it's mad. both of them are records that I listen to, kind of slightly cringe, but also think, they're weirdly good in a weird way. Just mad how it all unfolded. So the record shop, as I say, was a hub for stuff. In the back, there used to be a guy called Damage, Tony, good mate of mine. Like, I've got a lot of time for him. Again, if there's no Tony, there's no Scott Garcia.
Yeah.
He was working for a distribution company called Alpha Magic. They had a series, they had record labels and stuff. So he took that into Alpha Magic. Alpha Magic said, "Yep, we'll put it out." They paid me £300. I got a check. I got a record deal. So I'd gone into the studio, made these 2 tunes, got a £300 check. I'm like, fucking hell, I'm a producer. Do you know what I mean? So that's how it started. The record deal that I got was a 3-track deal as well. So I had options to the second single. I went in and I made Music Takes You with Nathan again.
Okay.
And these times I'm just cutting my teeth, really. I'm watching Nathan, how he's doing stuff, and I'm very much like all of my productions, and I'm sure Nathan would back me up on this, like there's nothing, I was not trying to sound like anyone else. This was just my vision of how we wanted it to be. Having someone like Nathan and G around you who have made a handful of tunes as well means that you can have something that sounds like a tune. Yeah. So there was definitely, they had a huge part to play in like the polishing of everything and stuff. But I think like my ideas for tracks, I'm still the same now. I always have like a theory, like there's a theory of the track. There's like, we're going to use this sample, we're going to use it in this way, and it's going to be like, so I've always been quite methodical like that.
Music Takes You is a Percy.
Yeah. Well, that was the first record that got any recognition.
Yeah.
The first one went out and done a few units or whatever. Yeah. The second one, I got magazine reviews. I had people, DJ Spoonie reviewed it in Touch magazine and all of this, and then you start thinking, like I'm going record shopping and I'm seeing my record on the shelves and stuff, you know what I mean? Yeah. And so that was cool. And then the third studio session that I booked with Nathan, we made this a London thing.
We'll come on to that momentarily. Yeah. But before we touch on that, because we'll have to move forward a little bit just to whatnot. Very brief, before we touch on the London thing, Dub Monster era.
Oh, Dub Monsters, yeah. It's all around the same time.
Yeah. Any of those tracks like you made with Ray, and how did that all come together? Like, did you what? The
best thing we ever done, that I think personally, is the Love Will Find a Way remix we did for Public Demand, the 4/4 mix. It never really got the recognition, but it's one of my proudest tracks that I've made. Yeah. I love Ray with all my heart. Yeah, and he's such a character. He phoned me up out of the blue. I'd never met him before.
Okay.
He said, "All right, mate, it's Ray Hurley." I'd heard of his name. By his name knocking around.
You got it knocking around, yeah.
Yeah, mate, we'll just get in the studio and do something. He's just like proper Essex white boy, full of charisma, full of jokes and banter, and I just really gravitated to him straight away. We sat down our very first day in the studio together. We made Waiting.
Ooh, banger.
That's all I need to say about my relationship with Ray.
Yeah.
The very first time we ever sat in a room together, we made one of my proudest productions that I've ever been a part of.
Yeah.
Ray is one of a kind.
Yeah.
And working with him was a dream, and the whole time was a dream. 51st Records signing us. Yeah. We're recording in 51st Studios, and in the studio next door you got Tough Jam, and they're sitting there listening to vocals for a remix they're doing, and you got Cole sitting in the chair like this, and they're just locked in listening to this vocal and things like this. I remember, and I'm thinking, wow, man, these are people like superstars to me.
Yeah.
And we're just in these big studios, and even at the time I was doing so many gigs as well because it just all went mad really quickly. And so I just remember sometimes being in that 51st studio and I'll be asleep on the sofa, and just waking up, and then we'd be working on an EP, and I'd maybe have to just sleep for an hour because I hadn't slept the night before, and then get up and then we'd just do a bit more. But those projects were some of the funnest projects funniest studio days. Mark Yardley as well, got to give him a mention.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
We used to call him Speedy Gonzalez, man. You could not work with a better engineer than Mark Yardley at that time. He was so fast, so locked in, brilliant at everything he'd done. He made us sound good,
Yeah.
you know.
Very clean.
He was just amazing, and a good friend, you know. And we, you know, because you're spending so much time with these people, you're just locked in a little room with these people all the time. You build really, really good friendships. Yeah, I had a lot of love for those guys, and still do. I speak to Ray all the time.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, that's good, man. And it's good that you still keep in touch.
Yeah, I keep in touch with everyone, even from all the Chronic day. Everyone, I still. There's not many people that I worked with back then that I'm not still very close friends with.
No, that's understandable. Right, It's a London Thing.
Here we go.
Talk us through the big tune. For me, just before I let you talk on this one, this tune here, I'll tell you, as someone who loves that tune, I appreciate that track. That tune there, even down to like, we had our Essential sessions back in a few months ago at Planet Wax, and I tell you, bar two DJs, every DJ, I think the last 4 DJs has played It's a London Thing, and it was like, wow.
It's a vinyl event, right?
No, this was...
No.
Some DJs played vinyl, but some were playing with the CDJs. Yeah. But they were playing It's a London Thing. And I was just mesmerised by the fact that most DJs playing that, and it still shows...
It's phenomenal, that record.
It is. I'm going to let you take the lead on this one.
Where do you start, man? I think, like, look, the story goes like this. I'm in flipping Channel Club, yeah?
Okay.
There's an event that started at Channel Club it used to start on a Sunday morning. It's called Space. It used to start like 8 o'clock, go through the day, yeah?
Yeah.
Or maybe 6. It started at 6.
Early?
I think it started, I know it's an early morning party. And I'll go there. I might have been with G Smooth, but I'm definitely there at this after party. I think Martin Lanas was there. There's a few other people anyway. The reason I'm saying this is because this was like my eureka moment with Garage, right?
Okay.
I'm in the thing now. I'm influenced by different chemicals that are running through my system at the time.
Yeah.
Whatever chemical of choice it might have been.
Yeah.
And I hear Baffled, I Wanna Hoe, this tune, yeah? I don't. If you know this tune, if you don't know it, check it out. Okay. And it's like, I had this record for time, yeah? And I used to play it. I liked it, but it wasn't like one of my favourite tracks. When I heard it this night, in that club, in that atmosphere, in that environment, the tune made sense.
Okay.
It was like a penny dropped.
Right.
And I was like, this is one of the best records ever made in the world. You know, like that's how I felt.
At that time?
At that time, yeah.
Yeah.
It changed the whole way I looked at Garage.
Wow.
Because it changed the way that I heard it. From that moment onwards, I heard the music differently. It was such a pivotal moment. It was one of those moments that you know, the spiritual moment that was.
Of course.
On the journey home from that event, still, you know, staring out the window of a cab, driving back to South London. Well, I'm in South London, but I'm driving back to deep South London.
Yeah, of course.
Just For You London, we got the guys, he's got the pirate radio, you know, he's got the pirates on. Just For You London comes on the thing. And I love that tune.
What, the jungle version?
Yeah,
of
Euphony,
course.
Body Snatch, or whatever. I love that tune. And I'm feeling the tune. I'm in the cab and I'm feeling it. And I'm like, we need a fucking Just For You London garage tune. You know what I'm saying, right?
Okay.
So I phone up the next day. I'm like, because I'm fully in studio mode now. I'm going studio every week. I'm making tunes every week. If I'm not at 51st, I'm up at Nathan's. You know what I mean? I'm active. Or I'm working with JD Braithwaite and those guys over in Whitechapel. And I phone up Spoonie, of all people, and I was like, yeah, Spoons, I'm going to studio next week. I'm going to do a Just For You London. I'm going to do a remix of Just For You London, garage one. It's going to be wicked. He said, Scotty, I wouldn't do that if I was you. He said, look, I know the guys who made the record. They won't let that fly. These times there, you got to remember, bootlegging is not, like bootlegging now is okay, apparently. Apparently now you can make a tune and you can literally call it da-da-da bootleg mix, right?
Yeah, and it's yeah.
And everyone's okay. Well, bootleg was a swear word in my era back then. Yeah, bootlegging was not a thing that you did.
Yeah.
Unless you wanted to run up against someone who might, you might flipping end up in big trouble, right? So I took the warning from Spoonie. I took his word, do you know what I'm saying? Okay. And so that led me to thinking, what could I do? And that's what gave birth to the phrase, it's a London thing.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't do Just For You London. So I done It's a London thing. And then, so basically, long story short, it's a long bloody story. But styles, so these times we're doing a lot of pub events. So there's a lot of garage events that are taking place in pubs.
Okay.
So I had a residency in Malden at the end of the line. And we also had this other one that we used to do called the Duke of Cambridge, which is in New Malden, right by the Shannon's Corner roundabout, which is now Krispy Kreme's, believe it or not. But it used to be a massive pub on the corner of this roundabout. And two guys that I used to go, that went to another school in Wimbledon, they went to Wimbledon College. So I sort of knew them from school days. They managed to get into this place and they was doing the music in there. So they asked if I'd come along and play, because obviously we had the record shop, we had things going on, radio and whatnot. So we started doing this thing in the Duke of Cambridge, and it started off as, maybe 30, 40, 50 people. By the end of the summer, because it was weekly, by the end of the summer, it was literally 400, 500 people every Friday night, ram-packed, garage. Then the mics started coming into it. So then Lee Styles used to grab the mic. He weren't an MC. He is
more of a host, but just hosting.
just a low, with all due respect, a low quality MC.
Okay.
Like he was doing what MCs do, but what he's saying ain't really making much sense. You understand?
Fair enough. Yeah.
So he's like jumping on the mic and and I'm playing and so I said to him, look, these times Carl Tough Enough, like I'm fully, like I told you, I was fully Tough Jam. I was an avid fan.
Under Vibe.
And Under Vibe was my thing. And Tough Jam had the Tough Enough brown dub plate, yeah? And I wanted a dub.
Right, okay.
So I'm like come to studio because I want to make this dub to Lee. So I paid him to come studio that day, and we could get in the studio, and then he's trying, and I'm saying, look, I want you to say it's a London thing. He's trying to do it in time with the tune, and it ain't working. The vision I've got in my head and what's going on in this room ain't matching up, right? And in the end, I remember saying to him, stop the music, right? Just fucking talk like you're introing me at the rave. So imagine we're in the Duke of Cambridge now. I want you to just come on the thing and say, yeah, you listen to the sounds of Scott Garcia, this is MC Styles, it's a London thing, da-da-da-da-da, right? So he just reeled off this whole dialogue, and then I took it, chopped it all up.
Perfect, like that.
And then I made it into the tune that it was. So that's how the song was written. It was written through...
Just him being freestyling.
Well, I gave him the words to say, and then we repositioned the words. And then, big influence on that record as well was Armand Van Helden had a record out called Funk Phenomena.
Oh,
and
big tune. Yeah.
Towards the end of that track, there's a chopped up vocal part where he goes, the funk phenomena.
That's right.
The funk phenomena.
Yeah.
So I was like, it's a London thing.
There you go.
So that's where the influence for that chop came from. And that made the record. That it's a London thing made the record. So thank you, Armand Van Helden, man. You're a G.
You heard it.
You know what I'm saying? It's simple.
Oh, brilliant. So you've got the production, it's out there. Mm-hmm. What happens next?
Yeah, so basically, like I said, I had a 3-track deal with Alpha Magic.
Yep.
And it just came to fruition, or it came to my attention, that the sales figures that they were giving me, and because I had a press and what was called a P&D deal. So essentially, you go to a distributor, they press and distribute your record for you, and they pay you your royalties. Yeah. what this means is if you're not in control of the pressing, you don't know how many records are being pressed.
That's right.
So you've only got their word on how many records are being sold. It came to my attention that the numbers weren't matching up. It also came to my attention that this record is getting popular. A lot of people wanted it. So I actively started taking it round to record labels to see if I could get a deal with it, because people were saying, mate, the tune's big, like everyone's playing it. Every shop I'm going into saying, mate, we restocked it last week, it's gone again, we need more. You know, like it was like that everywhere. I'm hearing the same thing. So I started shopping around. I went to a couple of labels. I took it to 51st.
Okay.
They offered me 500 quid for it. And I thought, and I nearly took it, you know. I considered it. I did consider it. It was cheeky.
Yeah. But
I considered it. And then in the end, I spoke with Ollie and JP. Ollie White and JP Furman they was part of Zoo Entertainments. Bobby and Steve and all those guys. They had like the Lords of the Underground party they used to do and all of that. So they was well positioned. Bobby and Steve at Kiss at the time and all that.
Yeah.
They sort of said to me, look, we'll get you a deal on this, a proper deal.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, let's do it. And they did. They went and shopped it. But what they did was quite cheeky. They went and got a deal for themselves. So they went and got a record label deal.
Oh my God.
With Total BMG.
Right.
So at the time they was managing me and they was also managing Baffled. So what they did was they managed to leverage what we was doing into an album, like into a label deal for themselves. So they're like, we've got Baffled and we've got Scott Garcia signed. They've got, you know, Baffled had Going On and they had Over You and all these records popping off. I had It's a London thing popping off. We had the Dub Monsters stuff. So they managed to use that as leverage to go and get God knows how much money out of a record label. I got paid in advance for It's a London thing. Everyone got paid in advance. That was the last money I ever saw for It's a London thing. I never saw a penny to this day. I've never seen a royalty statement. I've never seen a penny of royalties. I don't know how much was spent on the video. I don't know anything. I've never had any documentation. I've never been able to contact them. I know they're out there. You're probably watching this, you couple of slags. Give my money back.
Wow, mad.
But other than that, they didn't pay me. That's the bottom line. So you know that age-old story, you hear it again and again. I'm one of those producers. I had a hit record and I didn't get paid for it. However, in the long term, if I was in that position again, I'd probably do the same thing but I'd probably be a bit more meticulous on the back end of stuff.
Yeah.
But it's a learning curve. But yeah, so that's It's a London thing really. Went out, it done amazing things. It was a very culturally important record at the time. From graffiti on, you know, all over the place to people just saying it and just, you know, it was just very much like of the time. And like I say, it led to me setting up a studio. So I took the money that I did get from that, the publishing deal and the advance, and I bought a studio.
There you go.
So that set me on to my next
journey.
But I mean, I guess what you want to hear from this is that, and the crux of all of it is, while all this was going on, Alpha Magic, the label who had the press and distribution deal with me originally,
that's right,
set a lawsuit in action, a cease and desist, basically, because in their eyes they had the right to distribute this record, and now that we'd sold the record to someone else and someone else is distributing it, we've breached their contract, which there's a lot of breaching going on, right? Do you know what I mean? There's a lot of breaching going on. So anyway, that was that. That led to a legal battle. So they served us, and they served us hard. My management sort of, they weren't very confident of the outcome, I think.
Okay.
So they were very cagey about the whole thing. And what it led to is it meant I couldn't release another record as Scott Garcia at that time, because everything was linked to what I was doing. So there would have been an argument if I'd have put another record out.
Yep.
It would have added to the legal case that I had.
Yeah.
So I had to stop producing with Scott Garcia at that point.
Yeah.
And that's when Corrupted Crew came around.
So talk us through the Corrupted Crew project. How did that come to about? And also Poison.
Yeah, so Corrupted Crew came about because I wasn't able to release under my name.
Sure.
I'd bought this studio like under the advice of my management, which was probably the best advice they ever gave me. And I'd managed to get myself a studio located in the same building as Nathan and Gavin. So Nathan and Gavin were upstairs.
Okay.
I was on the middle floor now with a considerably bigger unit, which had an office space and a studio unit inside.
Okay.
And I met, so I'd done some work with Dana Down before, which is one of my previous records. An American guy who's just kind of had this thing for garage, and he was a cool guy. He knew a guy called Mike Kenny.
Okay.
And he recommended Mike to us as an engineer. I'd bought this studio and I didn't know how to use it, bottom line.
Yeah.
So I needed an engineer. Mike came in, he was keen on putting out some music of his own. I obviously had a project that was kind of in limbo because, with everything that was going on. So at the time, two-step was kind of becoming popular. So I wanted to make some two-step stuff. That was kind of, because I really felt that. Because remember, my roots are breakbeat, jungle, hardcore, do you know what I mean? So when two-step come around, I was like, oh yes, here we go, you know? So I wanted to make some two-step. So yeah, we just we linked up. I was working with Neat a lot at the time.
Okay.
We used to do this event. I can't remember where the club was. It's in North London somewhere, and we was we had a residency there. So I used to work with Neat all the time, and there was another thing that I used to do at EC1 called Housequake.
Oh, yes.
And Neat used to be on that as well. So I used to work with him all the time. So it was only natural that we was going to end up making a tune together. So he comes down, gives me the vocals for Garage. I think I recorded the vocals for Garage months and months before that final version came out. So there is a couple of other versions just never came out. So yeah, so we made Garage. Tell a lie. I made the Closer. Which is on the flip side of it. I made that first. Because I was still on the 4/4 thing then, the speed garagey thing. And then we made Garage.
Okay.
And then I thought, let's put these two together, have it as a release.
Was that released 98 or 99?
98.
98.
Yeah. There's a guy called PJ who's saying that he could press up records for us, right? So I was like, cool. So we get this job in with him. I think I paid him some money. He took the job and then he just went missing. Couldn't get in touch with him, nothing like that. Now, he'd said that he was pressing at EMI. So I got in touch with EMI Pressing Plant and I was just like, look, I was supposed to have a job in with you guys, but the guy who's done it for me, he's gone missing. Then I told him the story. I said, oh yeah, we've got your vinyl here. It hasn't been paid for, right? So I've had to pay for it again. However, it got me an in with EMI. So I could now go direct to press there.
Okay.
So from there, that's why all the Chronic vinyl sounded amazing because it was all pressed at EMI. So it was a bit of like I say, everything sort of happened so naturally. It just happened. Next thing, I've got a record label because I'm signing records now. People are coming in and we've got the office. So people are coming in for meetings. They're dropping off music. I'm signing records and we're pressing at EMI. I had an idea about marketing because I'd worked with Phil. I knew about branding because I'd worked with Phil.
Yeah.
So setting up a record label was, and also I'm a vinyl junkie. So I've got so many good bits of vinyl now by this time. I know what a good record label looks like.
Sure.
I know what it sounds like. So we just start executing this thing. I want to have, the release got to be standard. They've all got to sound great, but we've got a big studio. So everything's sounding great. We're using Masterpiece for our pressing, right?
Wow.
So everything's is on point. And there's videos of me in Masterpiece mastering at 18 years old, 19 years old, So we're mastering at Masterpiece, we're pressing at EMI, everything's sounding great. We've got a great deal with Essential Direct, who are out of Brick Lane, and to the point where they're buying our releases up front. So that's where we got to with it.
Okay.
So yeah, it was a very quick process actually. Having Mike Kenny there as an in-house engineer
as well
brought everything together. So when, you know, Corrupted Crew is my project. Mike Kenny was the engineer of those projects, but we collaborated a lot on those tracks. We spent a lot of time in the studio. So I wouldn't take anything away from him in that journey, but without where I was sort of directing it, Mike wouldn't have, I don't think, entered the industry as he did.
Sure, understood.
So yeah, so that was the Corrupted Crew.
What about Poison? For me, I love all your Corrupted Crew project stuff, I have to say that, but Poison was, for me, summer 99, yeah, that was getting played. Man.
So Poison's like a bittersweet one for me, man.
And just before you touch on that, the remix. So you did the Chronic. You had the two remixes as well on top of that.
Yeah.
Just want to say, man, A-star on that.
Okay,
those
good,
both.
There's a good story about the remix, but I think like the main story about Poison is that, and I'll keep it as brief as I can.
Please.
Joel, DJ Luck. I think we was already I was working with Neat. Neat was obviously doing some stuff with Luck.
Okay.
Luck came and brought me in some stuff. He brought in the Troublesome tune.
Okay.
I signed the Troublesome. And then he played me a demo of Poison that he was working on. But the way that they was recording the vocals, and it was with JJ, but the way they were recording the vocals weren't right.
Okay.
Like, stuff needed to be recorded differently. I think we had a bit more knowledge of how to put a good record together than Luck did. No disrespect, I don't know, no shade there, just at that time. So I think over the conversation we had over that record, I was like, this is a great track, but we can do it properly. Like, bring it in here and let's do it properly. So what we did, we had... JJ's brother is an amazing guitar player, like literally incredible. So I think his name's Jason as well.
Funny that.
Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty certain. But he, so JJ's brother came in. He done all the wah-wah guitar, the bass sound in it is all live. So this was the first. So for me, it was like it was venturing into doing this live production thing. That was my main motivation of doing that record, and a full vocal. You know, but remembering that those vocals were recorded into an Akai sampler. So it's not like using Logic now where we've got stems and you're just lining up waveforms.
You're having to
when you're doing a 5-part harmony, with an Akai sampler.
Was it 3,000 or 5,000?
We had a 3,000.
3,000. Okay.
We had a 3,000.
Okay.
But when you're doing that, that's such a difficult task. It's like really fiddly. So big up Mike on that because he made those vocals sound amazing. And that was, it was a full-on project. It took a long time to finish that project, but the end result is just flipping incredible. We got a deal. It was signed to East West Records.
Okay.
They gave us an advance.
Okay.
At the same time, Luck had been in the process of signing his deal for a little bit of Luck.
Oh.
And there was a conflict of interest there from their label. So Luck had signed the deal with us for Poison, but then the label basically pulled him out of it by highlighting the fact that there was an uncleared snare sample in the record. Yeah.
Wow.
Crazy work, because we went back to, I remember going back to East West and saying, look, your East West Records clear the snare.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Or, then we even found the snare, the same snare drum, we found it on a sample, on a
sample CD.
On a piece of kit, in a drum kit.
Oh.
On the Orbit, Emu Orbit,
okay.
They had this snare drum. So we remade the whole track, replaced the snare drum. There's no uncleared sample in this record now. They said, we've come to a point where this is unfixable. They let us keep the money.
Oh.
Which is why it was very shady. Yeah. I don't know how much money was being exchanged between labels for this to happen. But the upshoot of it was that Poison never got its major label release, although it is one of the biggest selling UK garage records of all time. Probably one of the best productions that I've been involved in, definitely. So that's the story of Poison, man. Another one that just didn't Didn't do what it should have done.
Yeah.
Still a great record.
Of course.
Love the record.
Yeah.
Just touching on the remix.
Please.
Really funny story because we're using an Akai sampler, right? Okay. So without getting too technical, when Shy goes in to do the remix version, yeah?
Right, okay,
Shy Cookie remix.
The remix, yeah.
His version, when it goes, girl, Mercy, and it goes, wow. Now that sound is the guitar, wah-wah guitar, playing very slow because it's being triggered by a key where the sample wasn't there, it was sampling, it was triggering the wrong sample. So it wasn't triggering the vocal, it triggered this guitar thing and it just went, girl, I must, wow. And I'm in the office, yeah?
And you could hear that.
I ran in there like, what that? I said, leave that in there. Yeah. Like that. So that's how that come about, that remix, man. Because Shy put the original bass line under it as well. So it was like, dun, 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 dun. It was wicked. And I've been sitting in as I used to sit in my office at my desk and I'd just be listening to what they're doing in the studio. I'm like, that is wild.
That bit there, I'm glad you told me the story on that because that was really good.
Yeah,
that was really good. That bit,
it was seriously like an incredible stroke of luck.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. It really made the track.
Definitely did. We're gonna just bring things up to a little bit towards the end.
Yeah.
Okay. Just a couple of more things we just want to touch on.
Uh-huh.
So, talk us through the Notorious meeting. Now, the reason why before I touch on that is because the scene's changing. Mm-hmm. Okay, so we've got UK Garages doing well. You got all the releases. This is all happening. Iron Appers, the Sun Cities, the Cosa Nostras. Everyone's making money. Okay, and then you got the change of the scene. The scene's changing, and you got the Soul Solid. You got your Heartless crews. You got everywhere. You got crews. You got everybody doing their thing. Mm-hmm. Cool, but the culture's changing. The younger crowd's coming in. There's a lot of violence. There's a lot of drugs. There's all this going on. We have to be honest.
Yeah, look, drugs and violence have been there from day one, right?
Of course.
I'm not ever going to have it put down to a musical genre that, like, there's drugs and violence. Like, when before we was going clubs, we were going pubs. People were getting beaten up and whatever in the pubs, yeah? That's it. And they were doing drugs as well, yeah? So that is just part of society.
Yeah.
What was the question again?
Just why, in your opinion, why did the scene
the way it changed, I think the music changed. The music got faster. I think that naturally happens. It's just a progression. So the music got faster, got a bit darker. I think the times got a bit darker as well.
Yeah.
Socially, you know, like in society, things were a bit like that. So I think the music always reflects the time. And yes, there was trouble in the clubs, but trouble in clubs is nothing new. However, my belief is that we was like the levels above this, the powers that be. There's probably a lot of people from other genres who were losing a lot of money through us excelling.
Right.
So I think that's one reason why we had quite an uphill battle. Also, on the side, going to the meeting and stuff like that, I think internally we was a mess. Personally, that's my own opinion. No shade involved. Don't come at me. That's just my opinion. The meeting was an attempt, I guess, at creating some sort of unity and some sort of unified approach to what was going on.
Yeah.
However, in my opinion, it created more division, unfortunately. And I don't think that maybe we should never govern what anyone plays. This is a freedom of expression. It's music.
Absolutely.
So when I wasn't party to these meetings, like I didn't go to the meeting. I heard about obviously everything that was said. I didn't go to the meeting, the first one. I went to the second one, which was later, years down the line. It was different. But I went the first meeting, garage meeting. I was not there.
Okay.
Because I felt like it was about us more than anything. We had Chronic, we had the Troublesome record, which was, very much like a ragga influence garage record that people, when it first went out, people didn't like it. Okay. There was some really negative feedback on it. I felt that there was kind of this narrative going around about, people slapping walls and saying booyaka or whatever they were saying. It felt a little bit like it was a little bit felt just not right to me. I didn't like it. I didn't like I was a massive advocate for So Solid Crew, Oxide and Neutrino, all of those guys that were coming through. I was flying the flag for them. I wanted them to succeed. Yeah. So I couldn't see like how it was such a problem for them to be part of what we were doing
at the time.
And I was certainly not going to be told not to play
their records,
someone's records.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So yeah, that was my whole point on it. And I think that was kind of, that didn't help us. That didn't help us. It just created a bit more division.
At the time. Yeah, understood. We're going to bring the podcast towards the end.
Okay.
Just briefly before we get onto our fun fact questions, talk us through a bit about your shows on KISS and how that's all come about.
Yeah, man. I've been at KISS now for 6 years.
Yeah.
Before that, I'd done I went back to Flex when they went legal originally.
Yeah.
And I'd done what I was calling the Street Knowledge Show. We'd done that for 2 years. And it was new school music. It was all new school music every week. When I started it, I was trying to sort of diversify a little bit and playing a bit of drill, a bit of trap, like all sorts of different stuff because I just didn't really have much direction at that time. And I remember saying to LB, I think I might have played one of his tunes or something. I said, have a listen to the show. Let me know what you think. So I'm trying to format this legal radio show where we're doing a bit of this and we've got jingles going on and all this stuff. And I spoke to him a week after and he said to me, mate, I'll be honest with you, you sound lost, bruv. And I think he just hit the nail on the head. I was totally lost. I wanted to do a weekly show. I wanted to push new music. There wasn't enough new music, garage music, for me to do a 2-hour show every week of new music. So I was, consolidating it with other genres. After I had that conversation with him, I realised that that's not something that I should be doing. And it really changed my outlook on the radio. And from there, I doubled down on garage. And I really did. I made massive efforts to find all of the new music. Any new producer, if you was on SoundCloud, I was hollering at you. If you was wherever you was, I was finding you. And so we started a thing, the Street Knowledge Show. It began to take off. Every week I'd have guests on. They'd be doing mixes. We'd be doing interviews. We'd be doing and just highlighting new music. And then I decided, and I've never really given out demo tapes, but I decided, let me just give, because I used to play at the History events.
That's right.
I played at them all the time, but I'd never guested on the radio maybe a couple of times. And I thought, let me just send in what I've been doing on Flex.
Yeah. I
chopped it up into a small demo, like 20 minutes or something, chopped down a show into a little sections of me talking and whatnot. And I sent it over. I found out who I needed to speak to at KISS. And I sent it over to Andrew. God bless him, man. And he listened to the thing and he come back and he said, yeah, great. Would you be up for doing a show on history? And obviously at the time, I wanted to play new music. But it's KISS FM. My whole thing's been built on KISS FM, you said, back to the youth club. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly.
So I had to make a massive decision at that point and say, I'm going to go this. It's not a step back. It felt like a little bit of a step back because I was going back to doing old school music again. And my thing's always been about pushing the scene forward. But I knew that I had to get in the door first before, and I was always asking Andy, can I do it? Or if any new shows come up, let me know, And so over a couple of years, I started to do a couple of cover shows for the new stuff, so on KISS. So I'm doing my history show, and I love my history show because I actually dig deep. I think when I got on history, it was kind of the attitude towards history was it's just really fluffy, cheesy garage. No. Friday nights on history, you get 3 hours of serious garage music, and I'm proud to be a part of that. However, I want to play new music. So I've been, doing the cover shows for Shosh.
Yeah.
Shosh has gone on to do huge, she's absolutely smashing it now. She's doing the dubstep thing and she's flying all around the world doing that. So I'm so grateful to her for me to be able to cover her show and for me to sort of cut my teeth there. And then, in the last few weeks, I've taken over on the Thursday nights now.
What time is that, just for the audience?
It is 11 till 1. So we are officially the show that happens when all the new releases come out. So 11 o'clock, we start at 11, 12 o'clock, all the new releases hit the stores. So the show is kind of like a window into what's coming out.
Basically.
And I love it. It's, it's what I wanted to do. I've got goosebumps, I love it. So yeah, I just... it's been a 6-year journey to get to there, and I don't take it for granted. They could call me tomorrow and say that's your last show. I know that, so I'm just trying to make every show as good as possible. And I'm loving it. And like I've never been more alive in my career than I am right now. Playing new music on Kiss, playing old school music on History, events, just the whole package is why I'm so happy.
Yeah. Definitely, man, and it's touching. Again, another part of your journey. It was you did something, but it's now brought you back to where it is. You're playing. You got the luxury of playing old and new, and keeping up and keep relevant. What's going on?
But perseverance is always the key. Like I said, going back to the very start of what we were saying.
Yeah,
those early years
were integral.
That's why the perseverance is always there.
It's always there. Scott, thank you for telling us your journey, your story,
Cheers,
and where you've been, man. It's much appreciated today.
Thank you, Shane. Thanks for having me.
We're going to have some fun fact questions for you.
Let's go.
You ready?
Yeah, man.
Yeah, you read the questions there?
I perused them, let's say.
All right. Right. What frightens you?
Dying.
Yeah?
Yeah, I don't really want to die yet.
No.
I'll be honest with you. When I do go, I want to feel that I've done enough. There's a lot of stuff I want to do, Shane.
Yeah.
So I don't want to die.
You don't want to die.
So that's probably the only thing I fear.
Yeah?
Yeah, dying.
Dying. All right. No, that's all right. And last but not least, if you could have dinner with one celebrity, who would it be?
I thought about this one.
Yeah, okay.
And I couldn't think of anything. Like, I think that, and this is just being real, at the moment, I don't really deal with celebrity anyway. It's not something I was consigned to. But I think Big John.
Okay.
Because he knows his way around it. I'd like to go for a Chinese with Big John.
Yeah.
Right? Because he's going to know, he's going to give you pointers. Oh, have you ever had this? Like, he's going to know his way around a Chinese menu.
Yeah.
You're going to have a good bit of banter with him.
Absolutely.
He seems like a laid back and fun guy. So yeah, Big John would probably be.
Big John.
I know it's probably not like I'd love to have a meal with the entire UK garage scene, all sit down around a long table, but I wouldn't. I wouldn't.
Big John's the one.
Big John. I'd like to go to a Chinese with Big John.
There you go.
And just enjoy the menu.
There you go. Scott, again,
Shane,
thank you.
Thank you, man.
Thank you
It's been a pleasure.
You're welcome.
Cheers, man.
And I hope you enjoyed today's episode of the Unspoken Word Podcast. For those that have just your first time watching this, we are available also on an audio platform. So we are available on your Spotify, your Apple Music, or Apple Podcasts, to name a few. Link are in the description. Link in the description also for our guest today, Scott Garcia, to follow him on his socials, follow the journey, and also your workshop as well.
Yeah, so we just launched it. Yeah.
Just launched it. So again, link are in the description. Do check that out, okay? And of course, thank you again for your time on the Unspoken Word Podcast, and I hope you see you on the next episode. Remember to hit the like, share, and subscribe. Take care. Thank you.